What's up, guys? Welcome aboard to the Star Wars Fancast, the show where we talk exclusively about what's going on in a galaxy far, far away. Here to my right is, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, sir?
My name's Jordan.
And to the right of Jordan
I'm
is
Tyler.
I just realized how harder it is to introduce people when they're...
Yeah.
Because you said here to my left and then here to my right.
Well, you don't have to follow that same formula.
I just started with it and then I realized I can't say to my farther right because that doesn't make any fucking sense. See, this is why it's so much easier for you to start these things. But
I mean, it's just an arbitrary position of where I'm sitting right now.
yeah, you just have it easy, boy. All right, well, obviously this is not really just a Star Wars cast. It'd be cool if it was, but we got to talk about other shit besides Star Wars. So
also, people would already have known that it's not because by now they would have seen the other two episodes have titles, and.
But they're both talk about nothing like Star Wars content, sort of.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the first one's technically not just a Star Wars fan cast.
We talk about Batman.
And we talked
and
about
Indiana
Indiana Jones and Lord of the Rings, but fuck man, I just thought it'd be fun to go with the bit. And then Tyler thought it was really fucking funny, apparently. But
Well,
that's fine.
we won't mark you down too much for that.
How was that bit? Was it good, Tyler? Was it a good
I
bit?
thought it was Class A.
Okay, good. I'm glad you liked it.
Well, in other news, really quick, we got to talking this week, and we actually finally have a for sure name, even though you can probably already
Let
see
me
that if
restart.
you've been...
Hey guys, welcome to the Spectacle Squad podcast, the show where we talk about anything and everything pop culture. Was that better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Fantastic. Who's on your right? Just kidding. Let's not go through that again.
Get it? It's funny because we all wear glasses.
What? Oh.
Spectacles.
I thought you were still talking about the position of seating, and I was like, "Yep, that's funny, Tyler."
No.
Man, what a shit show.
Alright, anyways, so we have a different topic today other than Star Wars.
Yeah, because I got to pick it.
Yeah. Alright, so Jordan, what did you pick this week?
So I decided to do a little throwback of my own to Terminator, the original 1984 film, because Tyler said he's only seen it a couple times, once or twice, and then Ben said he hasn't seen it at all.
No, I haven't seen a lot of movies through the 80s, though, so that's not really a surprise. I feel like this is going to be an ongoing theme with this podcast over, well, wait, you haven't seen what? And then we're just going to watch it the following week, so.
Yeah, or played, because playing old video games can be fun sometimes.
If not, nerve-wracking and annoying, but we'll get to that when we get there.
Oh, man. Is that going to be a future topic?
I don't know, is it?
Alright, so I picked Terminator. I only watched it for the first time like a year ago because I mostly watched T2 and T3. But back when I was watching horror movies weekly, I was told, you should watch the first Terminator movie. It's basically just a slasher movie, but instead of a masked killer, it's a robot from the future but with guns. And I was like, well, that sounds pretty rad. So decided to buy it and watch it and haven't stopped thinking about it since. I love this fucking movie. I probably the only person that thinks it's better than the second one. I like the second one, but I like that it's more of a horror movie. I also like that it's a lower budget, that it's a little jankety at times, but I really appreciate jankety. And it feels like it connects with my other favorite movie, Halloween, from 79.
You know, see, I feel like there's a running thing with, like, especially movies of the 80s. Like, you look at, like, Jaws or this movie or Halloween or something like that, is that, or even Aliens, I think, to a certain degree, is that nobody expected them to be hits. That's why they were so low budget. That's why they had to get so creative, and they had to get they were all very passionate about what they were making. And just the genuineness of that really, really comes through in these films. Like, you can just tell that, like, yeah, it was a little bit shoddy, or maybe those prosthetics don't look as good, but, like, they really cared about what they were doing, and they were really kind of ingenious in the way they went about it.
And I could argue that nowadays, like, not too long ago, the newest Terminator Dark Fate had come out, and I see just as many issues with the special effects in that movie that I see in this one, but it's got current, like, CGI, and I think I'd rather watch old school stop motion or matte paintings,
Mm-hmm.
superimposed images. I'd rather see all of that than the god awful CGI that we have nowadays.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of like Marvel movies, like because I like superhero stuff, but like I don't care about Infinity War or whatever. Like that movie was just like actors on a green screen wearing funny suits, and then it's just everything is just it's basically just a cartoon with real people's faces on it.
That's fair. And I also go into that with like the movie Prometheus and stuff like that, comparing that to the original Aliens. Like, I mean, they're technically.
The original one was just Alien, by the way.
Oh, sorry, Alien. Yeah, my bad.
Aliens was the sequel, but
I thought Alien. Maybe.
it was the second one.
I thought
The original Alien was it was a sci-fi horror movie. It's
Yeah.
it's very much like this, where it was
Yeah.
there was just one creature and it was on a ship and you don't see it a whole lot, but everything about that one was practical.
Mm-hmm.
It was a man in a suit, but you can't tell. It looks like an alien. the
And
whole
even
time.
then, when they did show the alien, like they did like full shots of it, like it still looked like just as good, if not better, than half of the CGI stuff from Prometheus. And then I think there was a sequel to that one, right, where the alien actually shows up.
It was Alien Covenant.
Yeah, Alien Covenant. Yeah, like it just looked just as good, if not better.
It was better.
So
That there's just something about CGI that really takes me out of it. Unless it's like a full CGI movie, like Resident Evil. What was that? What was the Resident Evil's Regeneration?
no, I don't know what you're talking
I
about there,
never
but
watched it.
It's a CGI film that's based like in the continuation of the games that came out around the same time as Resident Evil 5. So, but it's just a full CG movie, and it makes sense to see like all one thing. But when you watch something like Infinity War and it's just floating heads on cartoon bodies, it just looks weird.
yeah, and then like Infinity War really shined when it was just like Thanos and other CG characters, because then I'm like, oh yeah, that looks really really good. But then you throw them next to like a human, like real person, like it's just as hard as like they try and as far as they come, like they can just never get like all the way there. And I think that's just where CGI isn't like, unless there's going to be another advancement anytime soon in that kind of technology, which I don't think they are. I think they're pretty much kind of capped out at the moment. Like it's just never going to be that close, and it's always just going to be like the uncanny valley. Like you're just never going to hit it perfect.
Yeah, which I think, speaking of uncanny valley, the more janky parts of Terminator would be the animatronic head, especially like when Terminator's doing the little face surgery on himself.
Mm-hmm.
But I really enjoy that like jankiness of the animatronic, because it when he's got the robot face, it makes him look more, machine like, and then whenever it's actually Arnold and he's got the glasses on, it's like, okay, so this is the skin suit working and making him an infiltrator, and then without it, like it's like, oh shit, yeah, that's a robot. So I like that it's got that back and forth, like, it could have been done a little bit better. It looks it's like in RoboCop, there's some animatronic, and that you can't, like, it honestly looks exactly the same. Like the animatronic and the guy in the suit look so similar that's the real uncanny valley. You're like, where's that guy's arms? Where are his arms? And it's because he's an animatronic, but that's great.
So before we go any further, do you want to just give like a quick synopsis of the film and just kind of
So
spout out some fun facts before we dive
luckily
deep into this?
this movie, the core story is super easy to say. Machines decide to start attacking humans, and humans in the future start winning. So the machines decide to send back a infiltrator assassin to go back in time to 1984 to kill Sarah Connor before she births the savior of humanity, John Connor. And so the humans send back Kyle Reese to protect her, and the whole movie is just Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor running away from the Terminator, and he just shoots anybody that gets in his way. And there's a little bit of flashbacks to give you a hint of what the future is going to be like, but it ultimately ends with Kyle Reese sacrificing himself to save Sarah Connor, and then Sarah Connor crushing the Terminator. And I don't know, that's the story. It's only an hour and 47 minutes long, and I think that's like the perfect amount of time for a
It's
movie.
as long as it needs to be.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of like maybe the beginning has some extra bullshit just to kind of be like, this is a character, this is their personality, but then they get murdered, so it's like, whoa, I didn't really need to care about this person all that much. But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. This movie had everything, man. Just action, killer robots, shoulder pads. It was great. So much like
A front wheel drive 80s caddy.
that was really
Yeah,
specific.
that was a big thing for Tyler. He would not get off of that.
He paused the movie for that.
Yeah. On another side note, I thought it was kind of interesting. Because, I mean, in the movie, the future is set in 2029, which is only 9 years away, which I think is kind of cool. Because, I mean, like, with the whole Back to the Future thing, what happened, which was 2012 or 2015? I don't know. It's just kind of cool to see, like, where movies predict where we might go, whether it's fact or fiction or whatever. And where we actually end up, like, in Back to the Future, they were like, oh, we're going to have flying cars in 2015. Where the fuck are we? We have Teslas, but that's not flying. And then the other thing is that I thought it was kind of interesting that it was set in 1984, which is the same title of a book. I can't remember the author right there. Is it George
Orwell?
Yeah, George Orwell. I couldn't think of the name real quick, but I thank you, Jordan.
No problem. I'm interested in how you're going to connect the dots of that book to this movie.
Was it just the date and the title?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty weird. All right.
I mean, like, you could kind of connect them that...
You know what year 1984 was written?
1960?
1948.
Oh. Interesting.
Oh, man.
I mean, like, the only way you could really connect 1984 and Terminator, I think, is probably a dystopian, futuristic society.
I don't think it's dystopian. I think it's...
Fucked up.
It's post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyways, that's my tangent.
Nice. I'm glad. Is that a segment?
Yeah.
Tyler's tangents.
Tyler's
We're gonna have to have a
tangents that
segment
make no
break now.
fucking sense.
You know what? It did make sense because there was a year 1984. So you did it, man.
Thanks. I try really hard, you know.
You got it.
Golly.
So you Tyler said you've seen this movie once or twice. How many times?
Probably 2 or 3 times, yeah. It was mostly when I was younger. I haven't seen it in a good couple of years, but I mean, like you said, it's just like a classic slasher film with robots and guns, which is pretty much all any teenager boy can ask for.
How were you introduced to the film?
My dad, actually. I don't know, he's into a lot of older movies, and obviously he was a kid of the 80s, so it was pretty...
And he was like, you have to watch this movie?
Yeah.
What age were you the first time?
I was probably about 10 or 12. I don't really remember.
Did he make you close your eyes on the booby part?
Probably.
I'm just asking because my parents were definitely like always hide your eyes on like
Same.
booby parts.
Yeah.
Even to the point where I used to watch Forrest Gump all the time as a kid, and they'd make me close my eyes when Forrest Gump is touching Jenny's boob at college.
Same.
And I was like, and then like one day my parents weren't home, and so I like popped in the VHS, fast forwarded to that point, just so I could finally see it, and there was nothing because it's a PG-13 movie, and I was just like, I've been hiding my eyes all this time
For nothing?
for just the implication of him touching boob, which I was already getting because she took off her shirt and I had to close my eyes, which means boob. Oh man, that was weird. But
I don't know. I really enjoyed the movie. I enjoy it anytime I see it. Like I said, the last time I watched it was probably a good couple of years ago, so it's nice to have a refresher on it.
and you've seen
I've seen T2, T3, Salvation, and I don't think I've seen any of the newer ones, like the past 2 or 3.
there's only been 2 after that one. There's Genesis, which has them.
That flopped at the box office.
It's because it's awful. It's unfortunate too because it has what's her name from Game of Thrones.
Oh,
I can't remember her name.
Emilia Clarke?
Sansa
Yeah.
Stark?
Yeah, what'd you say?
Emilia Clarke.
Yeah, she plays Sarah Connor,
Oh.
and so what it does is it goes back to this film, and changes time again,
Oh.
and then they go forward in
Oh,
time
okay.
after that. So there's like more time travel. It's awful. It's
So it's
dumb.
basically the plot of Back to the Future 2.
Kinda. I mean, yeah. It's like she has a Terminator like an Arnold Schwarzenegger friend,
Yeah.
and they go back to kill this Terminator to
Okay.
stop it from killing Kyle Reese or something. I don't remember the exact. It's dumb.
Because now Kyle holds the key to their salvation.
It's I don't know. I don't get it because it's already the time travel in these films aren't the greatest explanation of time travel, and ultimately it doesn't make sense because with time travel, the first time that they would have gone back in time would have split time into two different, like there would be the main timeline and then there'd be this new branching timeline where it'd just be this continuation cycle, which is what has happened.
Well, that just depends on if you believe in like the split timeline theory, or if you just go like it changes the future and that's it. Like,
Yeah, but if you think about it, in this movie in particular, like John Connor knows that Kyle Reese is his dad, so he has to send him back. So if it's a circular thing, then it's never going to end.
Sure.
And in T2, they change time. So depending on how this all works out, either the first time there wasn't a Terminator and Kyle Reese had to just go banger, and it was just like, your mission is just to go knock up my mom, so I'm born. And then the second time it's like,
Daddy-o.
yeah. And then the second time it was like, oh, the Terminator comes in. So like you have to think of that cycle so it continues. But the second movie changes time. It changes the future.
That's because I have no clue what happens in the second one.
And then every sequel after that actually changes the future. And that's why they had to go back, because Genesis was like, okay, so time is super muddled, so let's go and time travel 2 times and go back to where it was mostly just a nostalgia grab. That's what we talk about, nostalgia. A nostalgia grab on this original film, because it has the whole part with him walking up to, by the way, those 3 punk dudes, the one with the blue spikes, that's Bill Paxton from Aliens. It's game over, man.
I just didn't know his name,
I've
but
never
I
seen
recognized him.
Aliens.
And then I don't remember his name, but the other guy that gets punched through his sternum, that's the dude that plays Shao Kahn in Mortal Kombat Annihilation movie, which is a terrible 90s film that you should all watch because it's great. It's a great, terrible movie. Maybe that might be an episode in the future. I'll make you watch those movies.
Probably.
Because they are a joy. But yeah, so that's 2 of those characters. But what was I talking about? Oh yeah, Terminator. So and then the newest one, Dark Fate, is a direct sequel to Terminator 2: Judgment Day.
Okay.
So it erases T3 through Salvation.
One interesting aspect of this movie that I really, really enjoyed was how all of the music just basically sounded like it was created on a Korg. And it's
I like to
super
imagine that-
simplistic. And
I like to imagine that it was just like some dude was just given like an afternoon, like towards the end of the movie, and just like towards the end of production and stuff like that. All right, we're gonna ship this out in a couple months. Why don't you just knock some shit out? All right. Like,
he's like, oh shit, that sounds fucking
but you know
fire,
what's
bro.
funny though is that like even then that stuff still holds up. Or it's this movie or like Halloween, like such a good example of it. Like it's so simple, but it's so effective.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of my favorite things about this movie was every time the Terminator was in a scene, it would just do those bump, 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 like those eighth notes, and you're just like, oh shit, stuff's about to go down. Like it's so good at its job, and it just proves that you don't have to throw all this like huge, like
Bombastic
cinematic scores and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like because movies nowadays, ever since I would say Inception and stuff like that, all movies of this caliber like just like throw everything at the wall with these huge things. I'm just like, that's cool, and it's fine now for what the movies are now, but like there's just something so nice about it being so simple.
Yeah, at the same time though, like when you talk about movies of this caliber, like I don't see a lot of movies in the last like 10 years that will stay the test of time like a bunch of these classics like RoboCop and Terminator. Like those movies are, before my time, but being passed down to me, and then I will pass those forward as I go, because like they're movies that you have to see. They're movies that inspire other things, and movies nowadays, like even these reboots and sequels that they're trying to continue these franchises with, like they're not memorable. Like they're just gonna be put into a stack.
Grab,
Yeah. So I don't know. I can't think of anything like the ones that I have enjoyed the last couple of years are the lower budget, the smaller flicks, just because I feel like there's a lot more
Passion.
Yeah, there's people who are putting more effort into the lower budget ones because they want to make the best product they can with what they have. And when you have a huge multi-million-dollar budget, you're gonna be like, well, I got time constraints, I gotta, also movies nowadays are fucking 3.5 hours long. Like, that can eat dicks. I don't want to watch a movie for 3.5 hours. That's too damn long. I ain't got time for that.
I think we can blame the Lord of the Rings for that because they did it and they got away with it, and I think a lot of studios were like, okay, this is the magic, this is the reason why this thing did so well.
True. I think you're right. The difference I would say is I can't think of them making Lord of the Rings movies shorter and retaining the amount of information, where nowadays it's
oh no, I agree
a shit ton of filler.
No, I agree with you. That's what I'm saying. But like studios are thinking, oh, it's the runtime.
Yeah.
Like they're like, we can get away with these longer ass runtimes. When Lord of the Rings was like, no, we have to do this because we have all of this material that we have to put out, of which we still cut out a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
AKA burning of the Shire. You know, it's kind of how it went.
And I think, thanks to the last decade with the rise of television, because when I was a kid, television was like low tier. Like if a movie star went and started doing TV shows, it was like they jumped down a cast level. Now it's like TV's where it's at, because you can get away with having a 10-hour story and it be broken up into 10 pieces. And so like miniseries, and we can thank HBO for all of that, because they started that with Oz and Sopranos, and that was like, oh, people actually care about these
I fuck with Sopranos.
these longer stories.
Yeah.
And so now, we're gonna get like a Lord of the Rings show on Amazon, and it's probably gonna have all the stuff that we're missing, like Tom Bombadil and shit like that.
The other thing too is like it's gonna be like crazy big budget too. Like it's because I don't even remember. I know they spent a fuck ton of money getting the rights to make that show, because it was between them, Netflix, and HBO. HBO dropped out because they were still having Game of Thrones, so they were trying to complete that. So like, let's just stick with one, and then like Netflix just didn't beat them to the bid. But like, that's insane.
I don't think Netflix could have
done it
match the
justice.
bitch. No.
Not the bitch. Match that bitch.
What I meant was like the Amazon could always just outbid them. Like Netflix has a ton of money, and I think that they're spending it wisely. Like they're making some great original content.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Netflix has always been good because it's always been like it's
been good.
Well, okay, what I mean, like it's always been good about like seeing where the future's at and heading in that direction when it came to streaming, making its own original content, doing the stuff they're doing now. So,
well, you know how they used to, like back in the day, back when I first started college.
Are you gonna talk about how they used to mail you CDs?
Well, I mean, yes, that's how it started, but no, the way that they researched what products to buy licensing in was keeping an eye on Pirate Bay.
That's interesting.
Really?
The top searches on Pirate Bay generally turned into Netflix content.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Like I said, like they were good, and then, but
I mean, honestly, going on another kind of tangent, I think Amazon is probably the best choice for the Lord of the Rings show, with a lot of the content they've been making recently, like with the Grand Tour, the show that Orlando Bloom was in, even though it was only like one season long, which was like maybe 12 episodes or something like that, and each of them was an hour long. They were each filled to the brim with so much content, and I think I think the quality of the whatever show Orlando Bloom was in.
Are you talking about Carnival Row?
Carnival Row.
Okay.
I think.
Did you call it the first time?
You didn't call it the first time.
I thought you said a Grand Tour.
No, the Grand Tour is a
so that's
show.
A different show.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, and also, side note on that, so the Grand Tour is the people from the British Top Gear, which is like the highest grossing show in the world. Like, it was the most viewed show on the world tour, and it was like, it had like the most countries watched or whatever. And so whenever they quit the BBC, like Amazon threw a fuck ton of money at those guys just to get them to come over here to Amazon and do whatever they wanted. So like they got money to spend. So I'm not worried at all about this show.
I mean, like, going back real quick, I think the production quality of Carnival Row matches that of HBO's Game of Thrones. Honestly, I mean, like the set pieces are a lot smaller and the story is a lot more succinct and it only follows like 2 or 3 characters, but the quality of it is fantastic. So I think they're gonna do hopefully a great job with the Lord of the Rings show. Anyways, probably we should go back to Terminator.
I mean, we're just jumping around. It's all right.
So yeah, going back to Terminator though, was this Arnold Schwarzenegger's like breakout role?
No.
Am I right? Was it not?
His first role was Hercules.
Mm-hmm.
Was that his breakout role though? The one that really like pushed up his like stardom level.
Right before this, because this film actually got pushed back a little bit because Arnold Schwarzenegger was filming Conan the Barbarian at the time.
Okay.
So he had done like I think 3 to 5 films before this one.
So people knew who he was before.
Yes.
Okay.
Because
that's what I was curious about.
His very first role ever was Hercules, and they actually dubbed over his voice.
I've seen clips of that. That's really, really funny.
Yeah.
Because you were talking about that while you were watching the movie about how they dubbed his voice in this for the effect of the Terminator. I'm like, man, they always do that. But that's also just because of his really thick accent too. So.
Yeah, and in Terminator, that's a gimmick that Terminators use anyway. Like it's in T2. It's just a thing Terminators can do for some reason is match vocal patterns. But
I mean, it works. It worked super effectively because he was able to find her because he killed her mom.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was intentionally, like if it was supposed to be like a wink or like haha, this is what used to happen to him, but
I don't think they were that self-aware back then.
I mean, I think
about stuff like that, like especially because it was still fairly early in his career.
I don't know. I could see. I mean, like
maybe
he got to choose. Like it was one of those things where they originally were going to have him be the hero. Like, he was going to be Kyle Reese, and then it worked out that it was going to be better for him to be Terminator. So
yeah,
it's one of the this is the beginning of the hype train of Schwarzenegger for sure, like him growing, but it's not his first. It's Conan Barbarian,
because it's like I said, like I couldn't imagine anybody else playing the Terminator. I think he does it just so well. But honestly, so this is my other question too, and this might seem a little harsh, but do you all think that Arnold Schwarzenegger is like a good actor, or is he a good action star?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I don't think he's a good actor for sure. Like because it's one of those. There's the difference between actors is there's character actors that when they play a character, they become that character, and you forget that they aren't themselves.
Yeah,
like Leonardo DiCaprio, any role that he takes, that he can be anybody.
Yeah,
and it's like that's Leo on screen, but he's anybody.
Yeah.
And then there's actors like Will Smith who take a role and
They
that
just
role
play
becomes
themselves.
Will Smith. Like
yeah.
it would be weird, like
Which I think that's I think that's fine too. Also,
yeah,
like,
no, I'm not
it
saying
works.
that's bad or anything.
Yeah.
And I think that the film chemistry of Schwarzenegger, he's one of those characters or those actors that when he takes a character, it just becomes an Arnold Schwarzenegger character because they're all the same. Like True Lies, Total Recall, Predator, like it's all just him being what I guess the weirdest part in all those is that he's American for some reason, or they just like he just has an accent, and it's just like it's just so clearly that he wasn't born in LA, and everyone's just like, oh yeah, born and raised, Iowa City kind of thing. Like it's like what? I don't think so. But yeah, it's definitely just this role fits Arnold and his charisma. Like I love his character in Predator, where he's just like the strong man that's real quiet and just barks orders. And
because like in everything I've ever seen him in, he always does that same because he doesn't show emotion when he's doing action, if that makes sense. So like for example in this one, like he'll like do this like running thing, or he'll like start punching people, but none of his facial features move at all. For this movie that works like really, really well because he's a robot, and that makes sense. But like everything, like I just couldn't imagine. Like it's just funny to think about like him doing like another like serious role. Cause I'm like he has no acting ability when it comes to his face.
Well, if you want to see what that looks like, watch a little movie called Jingle All the Way, and
Oh God.
you'll wish that he never.
Also, didn't he do like a really weird movie with Danny DeVito?
Yeah.
Yeah, twins.
Yeah.
Twins, yeah.
I love that movie, honestly.
Yeah.
It's so shit, but it's so good.
And then Kindergarten Cop.
God.
It's not that Tuma.
On a side note, I think you could almost kind of compare Arnold Schwarzenegger with Dwayne The Rock Johnson. I mean, Dwayne The Rock Johnson in his own right is a very good actor nowadays, but at the beginning of his like hype train to his pure
Scorpion
acting
King?
career, to his like pure acting career, it was kind of the same thing. Like any movie that you saw Dwayne The Rock Johnson in was. He's Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Well, so the reason for that is when he was doing his because I told you about this. So because he was still part of the WWE in his early acting days, and so if you're still part of the WWE and you're doing movies, the WWE gets to control what movies you do and where you get to go and stuff like that. So like all of his early roles are because of that. It's the same thing with like John Cena or like
John Cena,
Dave Bautista and all those guys. Like the WWE tells you what movies you can and can't do, so you really get typecast because of them, because it's an image thing. But.
Yeah, I think Universal had control of Mummy 2, Mummy Returns, when he played Scorpion King, and then they also had control of the Scorpion King film whenever they created that. But I believe every Scorpion King after that was produced by WWE.
Yep.
But The Rock's not even involved in it, but it's just like, oh, we retain the rights of it now, so we're going to make money. And I was like, well, why do you keep making shitty ones then? Like, make a good one. Oh, you can't. All your movies suck.
Yeah. So.
Oh my God. That makes me think,
What?
I was trying to rack my brain about, like, what John Cena movie? And then I was like, oh, The Marine. Have you seen The Marine?
No, but I know what you're talking about.
Okay, so my old roommate, like, He had seen it and he was like, you have to see this movie. And I was like, okay. And so we bought it at Vintage for like $2 or $3. Like, it was the cheapest movie I've ever seen there. And we took it back and watched it. And I mean, like, it just has like explosions for no reason, like all the time. Like, I think we counted like 16 or 17 just like major explosions. It's got some crazy ass action sequences. I believe the bad guy is oh shit, now I can't, Robert, he's the guy that plays the T-1000 in Terminator 2.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
And there's like a part where they he's like riding in the back of a car and like the driver is like, oh, it's like he's the Terminator, and then it does like a shot of like looking into the rearview mirror, and then he just like gives a look like, really, dude? And it's funny because it's like the same kind of look that he does in Terminator 2, because there's a part where he's in the back and it has like it's just like I don't know, it's like really ham-fisted Terminator 2 reference.
This is a joke.
Yeah.
This is a pun. It's a bit.
Yeah, it was.
So that reminds me of Night at the Museum 3.
Oh,
have you guys seen that?
No, I haven't seen any of them.
Okay, well, Night at the Museum 3, they're in London, and there's a part where they're running through this play. And Hugh Jackman is in this play, and he's playing. I think they're doing Hamlet, and he's playing up there and stuff like that. And I think Ben Stiller's character is like, oh, it's the Wolverine, and then Hugh Jackman's like, you know, I do other films, right? Like, you know, I do other things like that. Well, then the villain of the third movie comes and busts in it, and so then Hugh Jackman does his like Wolverine stance, and then they shoot it exactly like they would a Wolverine pose, and he's going, ah! And then the person on stage next to me's like, you know, that doesn't work without the claws, right? He's like, I thought I'd try. And I just thought that it's such a nice. I just love little things like that. Like if they do it well, like those jokes really take for me. But it just reminded me of that.
That's interesting. What is it? The same studio? Was it Fox that did?
It could have been, which is probably why they were able to get away with it as well as they did.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it is Fox because they had in the second movie they had a bunch of like characters. They had like some Sesame Street characters. Darth Vader showed up in it. And a bunch of other stuff, so that's probably how they got away with
Sesame
it.
Street is NBC, dude.
I don't know.
What?
Sesame Street's NBC.
Sesame Street's HBO.
Oh, okay.
I don't know any of that, so guess it's as good as
I don't
mine.
know.
HBO bought Sesame
years.
Street a couple years back, like 5-ish. They have it all on there now.
I don't know. I haven't kept up with Sesame Street since I was like 6.
I'm glad you don't. It'd be weird if you did.
Elmo's my homie, okay? Don't fuck with him.
Out of all the ones, you picked the most weird. Like, that's the... Mr. Noodle. Don't
What,
do that, Mr. Noodle.
You want me to pick Oscar the trash can?
That's the one I'd pick.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, fair enough. Honestly, I'd probably go for Big Bird.
Or the Count.
The Count Chocolate. No, that's
Not
the
Count
same.
Chocula.
Count Chocolate is a cereal, homie.
Yeah, I know.
So, this was your first time watching it, Ben?
Yeah,
Terminator?
it was my first time. And
What'd you think of it?
I really, really liked it. I didn't think I wasn't going to like it though, so
That was a weird sentence. You didn't think you weren't gonna like it? I just want to clarify. There was a lot of negatives
Yeah, no, I heard
for a
it.
positive statement.
I just like going double negative, man. You get to the same conclusion at the end of the sentence either way. So,
Yeah, it's just a lot more hoops to jump through.
oh well. Yeah, I really did like it. The thing for me about these movies is I didn't get to watch a lot of them as a kid, so like I didn't really grow. I mean, I grew up on some older movies, but like other than Star Wars and a couple other things, mostly not. So, and again, I keep hearing myself punctuating these weird, but oh well. But so it's nice to see these really kind of like, or what are now kind of like campy tropes and stuff like that. But it's like these are where these things originated, so it's really more of a deep appreciation for me than anything else. Like I was telling you about, there's a shot like when Arnold's having to cut his eye out or whatever, and then they do a mirror shot of him, and it's like fully lit up, and it's like you see the eye, and it is the most grotesque like prosthetic I've seen in a long time. But I'm like, what else were they gonna do back then? And but it makes me, it just like it's still like at the time it's still really, really good. And then there's a shot later in the film where more of his face is cut off, but he's in the truck, he's driving, and it's dark, and I'm like, that looks scary as hell. So it's just like the stuff that they were able to do back then with the limited like techniques and technology they had is just really inspiring, and I just love seeing it in action.
When I shit on CGI, I know that it takes a lot of hours, and it artists have to go in, detail in front of screens, like making sure that every line is perfect and that it is art in a way. But what I appreciate in these older films is that everything is practical. Like even the special, like, so it's very clear that like all the future stuff that was going on, the broken LA, like that's all model set stuff.
Yeah.
And it's, and then that's in the background, they got the foreground of real people running around in front of it. And I really like that because it's like somebody had to build those models and then like, film them like doing things, and they had to like put together, it's like Star Wars, it's like the Death Star, like how they had to build all the pieces of the top of the Death Star to make the trench,
and they had to like angle it like outside with like lighting, and they just had to like there's something really genuine about it.
And the stop motion for when the Terminator goes full endoskeleton and is chasing them through the foundry, like there's just something, the part that looks the weakest is when they're trying to like get through the door and close the door, and it's like hobbling after him, like that looks pretty bad. But like if the only thing that they could have done was use their model mock-up where they had somebody like kind of wearing it and moving it around, and that would be to the point of, I don't know if you guys have ever seen Hellraiser. Have you seen Hellraiser?
Mm-mm.
There's a scene in Hellraiser where there's like a monster that's chasing the girl down this hallway, and if you look carefully enough, you can see the child who is pushing the cart that the monster is on, and like in the film, like it's just like it was something that just couldn't be edited out. And so like that's, I imagine, what would have happened if they would have like tried to have done it with their animatronic.
I will say their animatronic was really, really good.
Yeah,
like when they did those like mid shots of them, I'm like, man, that looks amazing. That looks better than like the CGI ones that I've seen pictures of from the newer movies.
Because it's a real thing. You could punch it and it hurt your hand.
Yeah. Like, I love that. And then this part when it's like crawling after her, and the whole thing where she runs under that hydraulic press and like that, there was so much real tension in that because it was a real physical object, and it kept touching her, and then like right before she was trying to press the button, it was grabbing at her face and stuff like that, but you could see it touching, and I'm just, it's nice. It just gives you chills watching it because it just puts the stakes, it gives it a little bit more like realism.
This movie does definitely do a really good job about building suspense. Because, I mean, in the first probably half hour to 45 minutes, there's not a lot of dialogue. like pretty much all you hear people say is when Sarah Connor's talking to her roommate or her roommate's boyfriend talking to Sarah Connor or maybe the police officer. There's not a lot of dialogue heavy scenes aside from maybe the last quarter of the movie, which is great. And the way they build suspense of the Terminator coming into the past and how he's hunting down the Sarah Connors in that world is amazing. Because, I mean, they're using very... it's not super noticeable, but they use very underlying themes as far as music. So it's just building suspense with limited sound. And I love that.
And you're not confused on what's happening either.
Exactly.
Like, when he goes and gets the phone book and looks to see the 3 Sarah Connor names, and then the next shot is him pulling up in front of the house, you know that he's going to that person's house.
Yeah.
And so it's telling the story. Like, that's the other problem that I have. Like, you know, this movie ends with narration over the ending sequence, but it doesn't start with, I mean, it starts with a little bit of a...
It starts with
a reading
text.
thing.
It starts with a text block.
But it's not telling you everything right off the bat, and that's a problem that I think movies have right now, where it's like, it's got to tell you, like, every movie's got to start with narration. It's got to tell you the setting and not, like, have you live it. Like, you learn every character's personality through their dialogue and their movements in this movie.
Another thing, it gives you more, like, tension, too, because, so, the movie starts off, and you see, is it the T-800?
Yep, T-800 is this movie.
Okay, so T-800, you see, first off, that first shot when he's appearing, he's in that, like, stance, that power pose, and you're like, oh my gosh, like, that scene, like, even, I haven't seen this movie, and I know that scene because of how iconic that is, and him just slowly rising, buck-ass nude, and you see his sweet cheeks from behind and stuff like that, and they do that full, like, swooping shot, like, it was just, like, doing that. So you see that, but then later you see, is it Kyle? Yeah, Kyle Reese. You see him appear, but like he's like all like obviously in pain, and he like fell and stuff like that. But even then, you're like, you can tell, like, okay, these are not the same thing. But like, who is this person? Because they don't tell you. Yeah. So you have to wait because you're like, is this person in trouble too? Like, is he with him? Like, what's going on? Like, you don't know. And it's not until the T-800 finally catches up with Sarah in that club, and he starts shooting, but then Kyle pulls out his shotgun and starts shooting. You're like, oh, okay, like, he's here for different reasons. But like, it like movies back then gave audiences a lot more credit of being able to understand something. So instead of telling you something, it let audiences infer what was happening.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think it honestly took to that point. I think Terminator is bad as soon as he puts his arm through that one guy just for a set of clothes.
That's true.
Yeah.
So you know that there's trouble, but when Kyle Reese is running around, he's not necessarily doing anything weird or bad, but you don't really know like what he's up to. He does look weird and creepy as he's walking around in his trench coat, like following Sarah Connor.
Yeah.
So you don't quite know his intentions. But that's what they could have done in this movie, and I'm glad that they didn't. They could have had both characters super neutral and just left it up as like a whodunit for the beginning part. Like, you know, have the Terminator go and kill the other Sarah Connors without showing the face, and you just see the hands and stuff. And if they would have done that, then you'd been like, which one is it? Like, I don't know which one it is. And then that would have been, you know, like a kind of twist thing. But I think that would have been a little too overplayed. And so it follows because that's like the Friday the 13th, the very first Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
You don't know who's killing people. You just see hands murdering people, and you have no idea who it is the entire movie. But they made it more of the Michael Myers approach, which is like you see a lot more Michael Myers. Like, you know who the victim is because they show them second.
Yeah.
But the first thing you see is the bad guy. Like, you see the villain first. So you know Michael Myers is a bad guy. And then whenever he gets out of the insane asylum, then you're like, oh shit. And then it shows his target, and then from the rest of the movie, it's kind of going back and forth between the two. And this does the exact same thing, where it's got the Terminator, and it's got the hero, and then it's got the victim.
Yeah.
And so it just lines it up thematically, so you know who these people are without having to be like, I'm Kyle Reese, and this is my day. I wake up in an alley and I steal a hobo's pants. And it's just like, why do I need him to tell me? I don't You know,
Yeah.
I'll just watch it. I don't know.
You know what else? This is a little thing with me. So when you see the T-800 going to get the guns and stuff like that, and it gets that like pistol with like the
Yes.
the
Laser
laser
sight.
sight, you're like, how ridiculous is that? And you're like, that looks so stupid. Look at how like cartoony that gun looks. But then you see the shot of like him aiming at the person, but then you just see the dot appear on the floor, and you're like, oh, that looks really cool. I love, and maybe this is just like a small thing, but I liked how the movie showed you the setup to where like you can justify having a really cool shot, because I'm like, they could have easily just had him get a gun and they're like, oh, obviously it has a laser, but they did the whole point of like showing. I don't know, I really like that for me too, because
Yeah.
like every time like you lined up your, and they did that, they slowed down a little bit, you had the suspenseful music, and then you just freaking like get like I think it was like 5 shots every time or something like that.
Yeah, it was. It's interesting because the gun he gets isn't like, it looks like an M1911, so a very classic, you know, firearm
Mm-hmm.
with a huge ass. It looks like it should be just a regular ass scope.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was at first. It was a scope.
It's literally just
A
a laser pointer.
So you know what it looked at to me? So have you guys watched the original Transformers cartoon?
No.
So in the original Transformers cartoon, Megatron just transformed into a pistol. like he just transformed into a pistol that like Starscream or somebody else would use, and it had a big ass scope like that, and it was modeled after a 1911. It's exactly what it looked like was the Megatron pistol. It was even that metallic silver that he was too. It was great.
I like that. That's like 1984's future pistol is just a gun that's been around since World War II with a huge laser scope on top of it,
Mm.
and then it makes laser gun sounds when he shot in the first. It's like pew,
Yeah,
pew,
and you're
pew.
like, we know that's not what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, we've
well,
all
that
played
was,
Call of Duty. We
but
know.
like if you watch the I'm just gonna call them flash forwards. Like they're just like regular guns with greebled parts on it, like just like glued to it, and then it shoots blue lasers, and they do the but like they're just old school guns, just making
Yeah.
like that's what every movie back then did. Like look at Star Wars, they just threw a bunch of extra pieces that they thought would look cool on it, and they would just sub laser sounds and make laser points with them. So
I mean, shit. The lightsaber in A New Hope was made out of old camera parts.
yeah,
True. And most of the guns were from a World War II movie that had been shot in the same studio, and then they just
greebled the hell out of it.
yeah, which is cool because it's like super iconic now to see a MP44 with a bunch of extra pieces glued on top of it.
Because I'm like, if you go, because like I was a nerd and I had all of the character and like gun and vehicle encyclopedias and stuff like that. There was a Star Wars book that was dedicated to Star Wars weapons, and like you just have these giant blown up images of it. I'm like, you can clearly tell that was like an old ass like World War II gun that they just threw a bunch of shit. It's just so great. I love it because even in the new movies and stuff like that, and like the prequel, like they still made a point to try to do that, which I was appreciated.
Yeah, I think that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So do you guys watch the YouTube called Cinema Sins?
I do.
I haven't.
I love Cinema Sins.
Okay, did you see the one on Terminator?
Because I try not to watch movies that I haven't seen.
Okay, I'm like that too, but so I watched the one for Cinema Sins, and like I think like I don't take anything that it's all for entertainment. Like it's nitpicking movies for entertainment.
He even
because-
says that, yeah.
Yeah, because like a lot of people take it super seriously and they get butthurt about it when it's like a movie they like and like somebody's poking holes in it. It's like every movie has holes in it.
My
Suck it
favorite
up.
is when like the directors and stuff like that hop on it. Like, did you see the shit that happened with Kong Skull Island?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, like the director.
That
like,
movie was
jumped.
so fucking bad.
It wasn't
Wait.
bad.
Oh,
I didn't like it.
It wasn't bad.
It
but,
went
like,
from like
it wasn't great.
landscape to like cinematic to landscape to cinematic. It wouldn't stay in one sort of frame, and then it changed lighting every time it did that. It would have a sepia filter over it. I didn't like that from as far as like a lighting point of view. Like that
Right,
just
fair
annoyed
enough.
me.
I don't know. Well, the thing that movie real quick, the thing that really made me like that movie was the initial shot of them like flying over the island and running into Kong for the first time with the helicopter. Like that, I love that scene. So that sticks out in my mind the most, which is why I defend it. But even so, anyway, so like CinemaSins like hopped on it, but he even make like it was like a joke about one of the actresses or something like that, and then like the director was like, "How dare you do all like?" I'm like, dude, it's a YouTube channel. Like,
Yeah.
what's he gonna do?
One of the only nitpicks from the episode about Terminator that I remember is when the Terminator is in the gun shop asking for a bunch of the different weapons, and then the guy's like, need anything else? And he's like, plasma rifle. And it's like, okay, so this Terminator knows that he's going back to 1984.
Yeah.
He would have in his memory banks like every firearm imaginable. Like, he knows all these old school guns. He would know that they don't have plasma rifles.
Yeah.
Why the fuck is he asking for a plasma rifle?
Especially because, like...
Unless it's just a tongue-in-cheek, like, the Terminator's like, got any plasma rifles? Yeah. But obviously he can't show emotion because it's a robot, so it's just... But...
Which is... Because also, if you notice...
rifle.
As if you notice, like, in the rest of the movie, though, like, he's, like, super, like, he understands, like, how phones work and how vehicles work, so I'm like... Yeah, that was just kind of weird.
Yeah, it was just...
I think that was just, like they wanted the joke more than the accuracy of it.
Yeah.
Which, you know,
which is fine. Yeah, I think it's hilarious. So that's the only thing from that episode that I remember.
Yeah.
It's just... And now, like, I didn't even notice that the first time I watched it. Like, I didn't notice
I caught it as soon as... Yeah, I was like, that's stupid, but alright. Fair enough, robot. You do you. You're going to kill him anyways. Ha ha.
So, on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you rate this movie?
So it'd be off of a couple factors. Just for me, a movie is really, really good if I want to rewatch it, and I want to keep watching it, and I want to see seeing it multiple times to figure out how they do things. Like, because I love knowing behind the scenes about movies, and like this is definitely a movie where I want to keep watching it because I like watching it. Because the other thing I was gonna say too is I really want to understand how those car scenes were like done, and then like car scenes from the 80s in general were always really entertaining. So just stuff like that, story. The other thing too is the acting decent, because in 80s movies that's always hit or miss. And I think the acting was, because like 80s movies for me were always really, really over the top, and like people were like really quick with their words and like, oh yeah, Johnny, let's go over to this place and that's I hate that. And this movie didn't have any of that.
It was well, I would say the roughest part is at the beginning when the girls are getting ready for their dates, and Matt or whatever calls on the phone, and she's doing the phone reactions, and
She's
it's like and the reason is it's probably the old school way of not having somebody on the other line, so she's reacting to somebody just saying the lines
like cues
off.
and stuff like that. Yeah.
And so like
I agree with you.
that one wasn't great, but like what can you do? But like when it actually started getting dramatic and into it, like when Hamilton was pretty dope.
I would say this movie was probably close to an 8 for me. Like it was really, really good, really entertaining. So.
Excellent.
And like you said, like and I think I wouldn't have caught this had you not said this. I think just because I don't watch as much horror as you do, but like I definitely do notice the horror elements.
Yeah.
In this movie, which going in knowing that, I think for me really, really helped it.
Yeah, it's very, it's not as horror driven as the first Alien is. Like Alien is like primarily horror movie and then sci-fi second.
Yeah.
This movie is definitely sci-fi first, horror second, which is it works both ways. But being another like a new take on slasher, without it being, and it especially nowadays it's a really difficult way of having a movie where somebody just walks around shooting people. Like that's a really touchy subject because we can't live our normal lives without like the fear of somebody just opening fire in a movie theater or whatnot. Nowadays. And so having it be a non-human person that doesn't have like have anything that you need to empathize with, you know, the problem I have with a lot of those kinds of movies where it tries to humanize the villains that are murdering innocent people. Yeah. And so it's like, well, I mean, like, yeah, they're a bad guy because they're killing people, but like, look at their childhood, and it's like, okay, like that's the kind of shit that people try to do with Michael Myers. Like that's what the Rob Zombie movies were. Is it's like, well, Michael Myers had a shitty life as a child, so that's why he's a serial killer. Yeah. And I'm like, well, that's not scary. That's just every day. Like that's just a thing. Yeah. That's in reality. But like the original Halloween, Michael Myers, he's just a kid from a well-off family, you know, a good life and everything, and just one day just switch flips, and all he wants to do is stab people. And
you know what I think it is I think it's just people nowadays just don't like that justification. Like they just like that they need more than that.
Yeah.
They're like but if you think about it, it's because of these old school movies. So like back then in these old school movies, it was fine and like people could get away with it. But I'm like, people don't want to watch like the same stuff over and over again, and I think that's probably part of what that came from. It's like we need more than just you saying this person's bad, they're killing people. Like we want to know why they're like it's just
Yeah, but then it starts justifying it because then it's like, well, I mean, it's just just like look at his home life kind of thing. It's like that's not always the case. So we can't make that the case every single time.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And so that's why I think with Terminator, like it's like he's just a robot. Like, and honestly, like his whole thing is like if you don't get in his way, he's not gonna kill you.
Yeah.
The problem is that people kept getting in his way, and it's like the first three guys when he's like, I need your clothes, and instead of being like, here's my clothes, they're like switchblades, and they all try to stab him, and he's like defense mode, and so it's like, if they would just given it like the guy that gives him his clothes, I'm assuming he's still alive. They don't show.
Or like the dude in the semi truck, he was like, get out, and he was like, all right, like fair enough, I'm gonna fuck with you, Mr. Robot. So. And also, this movie definitely, I think, kind of falls under like a category of like a popcorn movie in the sense of like it's not like a super like nuanced plot that you have to constantly be paying attention to. It's just action, dialogue, which is fine. It's like not every movie has to be like super like in depth and like.
It doesn't have to be James Cameron's Avatar.
Yeah, like you don't have
to.
Yeah,
it's James Cameron's Terminator.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I was making the connection.
Well, first of all, I don't think that Avatar has a deep plot either. It's just space Pocahontas.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it does, but it's not hard to follow.
I mean, it's just like, human bad.
Humans bad, stop killing natives.
Yeah.
Please stop.
But
how is it that we're in the future and we're still killing natives? Like, didn't we learn from our own planet that that's a bad idea?
Well, no, because we'll never learn.
Assholes.
Yeah, so we don't learn from things.
Very true.
But yeah, I don't.
Yeah, but yeah, like this
I'm not
movie...
a big fan of Avatar. Like I understand its merits, but I don't care for it. Too much CGI.
Yeah, I mean it is now, but like for something back then, it was like
it was technologically like a big thing.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah, but yeah, this movie was just like a popcorn, like it's a popcorn flick for me, and that's nice. And I like watching things like that every once in a while. It's like not something that I'm gonna like have to try to figure out. Okay, why did this happen? What was this character's like motivations and stuff like that? Which to be fair, I like watching movies like that, but like not all the time.
Yeah.
And I think this is a very good 80s action flick.
And you haven't seen any of the other ones?
Nope.
You think you'll continue on to Terminator 2?
Well, I've heard from a lot of people telling me that Terminator 2 is the best, and I am on a completionist, so I would not watch that movie until I watch this one. So now I'm definitely.
So I've opened the gates for you.
You did. This is
nice.
That's why I was so eager to watch this one, because I'm like, I can finally watch Terminator 2 and get people off my back.
Well, see, I saw Terminator 2 before the first one, so I don't really feel like you need to see this one, but it's better.
Well, see, that for me, like, I can't, like, I'm a completionist. Like, I have to, like, that's the thing that sucks about me, like, watching movies and stuff like that nowadays is, like, and especially with all the new Terminators, I'm like, oh, that looks cool. Can't watch it, though, because I'm like, I'm not going to throw it. Like, I hate that. Because, for one, this all stems from my mom. So my mom has the biggest problem is like I'll be watching something like a show and I'm in like halfway through like a third season and then she'll come in and sit down with me because she's like, oh, we don't ever spend time together. I'm like, well, I'm watching the show right now. You've never seen it. She's like, oh, okay, that's fine. And she'll sit down and I'm constantly pausing it to answer questions. I hate that. She's done that my whole life. Can't stand it. So for me, I don't want to do that to other people. So like I have to understand what's going on to be able to enjoy whatever it is they're watching and stuff like that. So it was like I recently started watching the show Sabrina because of him, Tyler.
The Netflix?
Yep. Yeah, on Netflix. Because him and his friend, they were on season 3, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to like burden y'all.
I'm sorry, but you didn't watch Sabrina the Teenage Witch, the ABC?
I did.
Family
I did.
First?
I did. I've seen
all
that
the way through.
Yeah, I watched that show all the time. It was on reruns.
Just making sure.
Trust me, man.
I went after watching the first season of Sabrina on Netflix. I got on Hulu and watched all of Sabrina the Teenage Witch and was like, I don't know why I did that. But
I was like, they're not even remotely the same.
No.
It's definitely like Saturday morning-esque TV for me because that's what I would watch with my sister.
Wasn't it like Friday nights? Wasn't that the
I don't remember. I was too young to watch it when it came out.
For me,
Monday nights, I remember.
I don't remember. We were on during.
It was on a
ABC Family Time.
Something.
Yeah. But yeah, so like I had to, so I've been going back and rewatching that show from the beginning, so that way I didn't have to like make them like get behind with me. Like I hate that, so now I can watch T2 and talk about
Oh,
it.
good. You should.
I'm really excited about that.
It's a completely different movie, and every movie after that one just copies off of T2.
So, okay, let me ask: should I keep watching after T2? Because I've always heard that like T3 is okay, but at that point they were really running out of ideas, and then anything after T3 is just unwatchable.
So T3 is basically just T2, but everybody's more grown up.
And angsty.
Yeah, and it's like it's pretty dated because it came out in the late 2000s. So I mean, like, go for it. Not late 2000s, early 2000s. Like 2003. It's not.
It came out in 2003.
Something like that. I
When
can't
did
remember.
T2 come out?
95.
Oh, okay. So it was like a big old jump.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
First Terminator came out in 84.
Remember 1984?
Oh yeah, George Orwell.
George R. R. Martin.
Oh yeah.
Just kidding.
Oh my gosh.
My thoughts on Terminator.
Wait, were you not going to finish what you were just saying?
What was I saying?
Oh, I thought you guys were gonna tell me whether or not I should keep watching.
Oh, I
Yeah,
think
we
you
were,
should,
we were
yeah.
going through this
Oh,
whole
my
thing.
bad, my bad. I definitely think you should keep watching it. I do think T3 is a little dated, and it wasn't my favorite, honestly. It just reminded me of, like, the movies that play, like, midday on a Sunday that are just on because they're on, and, like, you're not really paying attention to them, but there's nothing else on TV that you want to watch. So you're kind of like, it's this, or the TV's off, or I'm watching fucking golf.
Yeah, I would say, like, if you get into Terminator like I have, you're going to want to continue watching Terminator, but have new stories. Like, so it's going to scratch the Terminator itch of watching Arnold Schwarzenegger punch other robots.
Yeah.
So that'll continue. The one after that one, Salvation, is purely just post-apocalyptic.
I liked it.
It's really slow moving for no reason. It's what's his tits is
Sam Worthington.
no
Isn't
Oh.
Christian Bale in it?
Christian Bale is John Connor, and it's the classic. So the whole that whole thing where Christian Bale like blew up on set, like at somebody that like walked into frame or something, where there's this whole like I know it's an audio clip, it might be a video clip, but it's him just like cussing the dude out and just being like, you stupid bitch, like how the fuck do you just walk through the set, like this is your job, you should be fired. Like he's just like blowing up on this dude. It's from that movie, and it's like because he was taking it super seriously, and it's like, yo, this movie is not good, so you should like bring it down a couple levels. It's weird because again, like it's trying to continue like the story, but like the story keeps getting weird because of time travel, and like they have continuity issues sometimes in those movies. Like if you look at people's ages and stuff, like it's kind of weird.
Time travel movies have always done that, especially the farther in you go into a series. Like time travel is amazing and it's fun to work with and it's fun to play around with, but you really gotta watch your shit, otherwise you're just gonna get caught up in something that makes no sense, a la X-Men movies.
Yeah, I think the only thing that's done time travel well is Futurama.
Okay.
What? That's just like
that's not what I thought you were gonna
I thought you were doing a bit.
No, Futurama, like they put like a lot of the writers have like PhDs in like physics and other like scientific studies, and so it's like they know the shit that they're talking about. Like whenever they talk about, like, I mean, there's stuff that they make up that's because it's like space shit stuff, but like they're really good with continuity. They're like changing time and stuff all the time, but like there's stuff in season 1 that's not explained until like season 4, and at that time you're like you didn't notice it the first time, and when they're like they'll do like an episode where they go back to the first episode, and then it's like there's a shadow there, and then you're like, that wasn't there, and you go back and watch the first episode and it's like, holy shit, that shadow was there. Like they knew that this was going to happen 4 years ago. So it's just got the best continuity. But so Salvation, hit or miss. I guess it kind of explains why Genesis happens, because Genesis decides to put its head up its ass further, and then the newest one, Dark Fate, is just a direct sequel to T2. So if you just wanted to, you could just go to T2 and then watch Dark Fate.
I might do that.
And then skip the other ones. But then there'd be a whole separate timeline that you'd be missing out on. But it's up to you.
I'll probably do that first. I'll watch T2 and then Dark Fate, just because you've said that those are the best ones, and so I'll go that route and then I'll watch the other ones.
I definitely think that Dark Fate's the third best out of all of them. Honestly, I think it's.
So here's the thing.
Dark Fate.
The only thing I remember about Genesis, it being in the media, is that didn't Genesis reveal its big plot twist in the trailers, like the fact that John Connor was a Terminator.
I think so. Yeah.
It wasn't that because that's all I remember from hearing about the movie is that director, because the thing that people found out was that the people who make the movies are not the same people who make the trailers. It's a different studio, or it's a different company that the studios hire to pump that shit out, and so they had no clue that was the big reveal, and so they just put it in the trailer, and nobody thought to talk to the director or anybody else who was working on the movie at the time about it, and so then they released that. Because the other thing too is teaser trailers are such a big thing in our culture now that they're pumping that stuff out almost a year before this movie's finished, which is stupid. Because now we're running into the problems of stuff in the trailer not being in the final cut. Almost every single of the new Star Wars movies has had that problem.
Yep.
And so they released that trailer, and then your big reveal in that movie is ruined.
Yeah, it was a big reveal, but it's also halfway through the movie. So once it's revealed, you still have an hour before it finishes, so it's not really that big a deal. So, I mean, it's just a shit movie altogether.
That's fair.
I would just watch it for Emilia Clarke.
Good point.
Yeah, I know.
Fair assumption. Can't argue with that logic.
And I forgot the guy's name that plays Kyle Reese, but he looks nothing like Kyle Reese. Emilia Clarke does look kind of like Sarah Connor to me, so it's...
That stuff's always kind of hard to do.
Yeah, but this dude, he's got curly hair, and he was a dude from I forgot his name. Do you ever watch the Spartacus TV show, Spartacus Blood in the Sand?
Nope.
Well, he was in that, and so I can't ever see him in anything else. That's a crazy ass show. It's literally just, it's like the movie 300, but it's gladiators, and it's just nothing but blood, boobs, and cursing. It's from Stars, and it was just what's really popular right now? Let's have an hour-long show where boobs are in it for 20 minutes. They hang dong quite a bit in that movie, or that show, too. Yeah.
Oh, Jason Clarke.
Jason
Clarke.
Cock?
Jason Clarke was John Connor.
Yes.
He was also in several movies. He was the main protagonist in Pet Sematary. For people who might not
the new
have
one?
watched. Yeah.
I haven't seen the new one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even from the trailers, you can tell that's him.
I mean, I've watched the trailer once.
Okay. He was also in Lawless. The
Only seen
Man
it
with
once.
the Iron Heart. Lawless is good. You should watch it.
I've seen it.
Oh, I
once.
thought you didn't. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, I don't like
Zero
those
Dark
movies.
30. The Great Gatsby.
Didn't see it. I read the book. I don't need to watch any movies about it. The book's boring as fuck.
That's fair. He was in Death Race.
I've never seen any of the Death Race.
I haven't either.
I was gonna say I haven't seen 300.
What?
I haven't.
The shit.
I watched the first 15.
What in the
I
hell?
gave you that. I told you this. Okay, growing up.
How old? That movie came out 2007, right?
Yeah.
So how old are you?
Depending on what time, I would have been either 7 or 8.
Same.
Jesus Christ.
So here's the thing with my household, okay? And this is my parents. So growing up, I grew up in a very conservative home, and so I wasn't allowed
Parents
to watch
wouldn't
any
let
of this
you
stuff.
watch movies that hang dong?
No, definitely not. And so, but the problem is now is that my dad still watched all that stuff. So now that I'm old enough to watch all of it or whatever, he'll come up to me and he's like, "Oh, we're talking about this movie. I've never seen it." He's like, "How come you've never seen this?" I'm like, "You wouldn't let me." That's just how it is with all of these old movies. Is because anything that was not.
Man, you never went to a friend's house to go. See
I
movies
did,
you're
but
not
it was
supposed to?
there's so many movies out there. There's stuff I have seen, and there's just stuff I haven't seen.
Yeah.
All right, name all the movies you have seen.
On the next podcast, it's just going to be a solo. I'm just going to make a huge list.
You can just write it out and put it in the description.
Star Wars: A New Hope.
Star Wars episode
Star
4,
Wars episode
6, 1,
5,
2, 3.
6, 7, 8. Anyways,
I can't believe it. It's just like
it was kind of the same way for me. Like
it's just how it was, man.
when it was probably up until I was like 17, which is when I started watching Game of Thrones with my parents, which was kind of awkward as fuck. But at the same time, I was watching Game of Thrones.
that's like it took until you were 17 years old.
Yeah. I don't know. It was probably for a good reason, honestly, because I mean, like, there are definitely kids who are exposed to like nudity and blood and guts way too early, and that's all they care about.
Okay, well, I'm under the
here's I think what he's saying, and I know where you're getting at, and I know what you're getting at from what he said. I don't think he's saying that he didn't watch a rated R movie until he was 17. I think that was just like the first one that he watched with his parents.
No, right? Like I didn't watch any movies with like tits in it or whatever
until you were 17.
Well, I mean, like I probably did. I just don't remember them like.
So 3 years ago.
No, I'm probably fucking this up, but I mean, like,
dude, I was trying to throw you a bone there.
But I
take
mean,
the
like,
lifeline.
I don't know. It's hard. Like I definitely wouldn't have been allowed to watch the fucking Sopranos or. Well, I probably would have been allowed to watch Sopranos. I probably wouldn't have been allowed to watch Game of Thrones when I was 14 or something like that.
What? I don't. Okay, so here's. I'm not a parent or anything, but the way my philosophy on things is as long as you are able to explain it to a child and have them understand the reasons for that kind of stuff, then there's not really an issue. Like,
well,
the problem with the whole, like, not allowing them, like, especially a teenager, like, you know, you want to, I don't know how you guys did. I mean, like, you guys grew up in, like, the heart of Google being able to look at porn whenever you wanted. Like, that wasn't a, like, my middle school time, like, I didn't have, like, the ability to look up nudity stuff. I was using, like, photography books that had, like, black and white nudes for my
So here's the thing. I'm not saying that I didn't see that. Like, I'm not saying what he said.
Yeah.
And here's the other
I'm
thing.
not saying that I
with
didn't.
my parents, it wasn't like I'm not allowed to watch anything rated R or anything. It was like the overly kind of like gory stuff. Or because with Terminator, like the scenes of him punching through the dude's like stomach and all the blood and him like doing the like that stuff. That's the reason.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't just like all rated R.
That wasn't even that bloody.
I understand.
I don't understand it. I don't understand what you guys are talking about.
It wasn't even like...
That's just how it was.
At a certain point, it wasn't even that they weren't allowing me. It's mostly that I didn't. Most of the time when I watched movies...
I was 11 when I saw Matrix for the first time, and that was like 2 years after it come out. Like... But here's the thing: is my parents were very much like when I was a young kid, I couldn't watch Power Rangers or anything because it was too violent.
Yeah, Power Rangers,
same.
Right.
Same.
So I had that same thing, and then like, but as I got older, my parents would start like, they were doing like these tiers of things.
It was the same thing.
Yeah,
when the Mummy came out, my parents went and saw the Mummy, and when they came back, they were like, "I think you're really gonna like this movie." And the first time I watched the Mummy, like I think I peed the bed because I was so scared because it was a terrifying movie.
The first Mummy is actually like
that's what I'm
somewhat of.
That's a pretty good CGI.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just tiers. Like, it's just different tiers, and like the older. And the other thing too with me, like, it was just really weird because like I was the youngest at that point, so there were some things that they did not care about. Some things
and you
that
did have your brothers weren't just, or your older siblings weren't just like.
They would, but like there are there are so many movies and everything out there nowadays that like it's just how it is. Like, there's probably.
I'm just shocked by it because like I was an only child for a very long time. I keep kicking this thing. For a very long time, and so it was like, if it wasn't going to a friend's house, and like I wasn't allowed when I was younger to watch like Austin Powers, but every time I went to a friend's house, you bet your ass I watched Spy Who Shagged Me. Like,
so another thing, peeling back another layer into my childhood is that growing up, like we also were like Christians and stuff like that too. So I grew up in church, and so all of my friends were church people. And so when I go over to their house, it's not going to be much different than my situation. It wasn't until I was in middle school, like late middle school, that I started going to friends' houses that weren't from the church, because that's just how I was raised. And so once I started going over to their houses, then I started watching movies and stuff like that. But the thing, the people that I hung out with, they were more interested in like stoner comedies and stuff like that than they were like older action gory movies, because they're my age. So I'm like, if they like, that's just stuff they didn't care about. And so like I would watch movies like Pineapple Express or things like that when I went over to their house.
Pineapple Express was good.
Yeah, so that's just that's the stuff that I was like, what you're talking about, like seeing when you're, those were the kind of movies I watched when I was in middle school. And
I think that like I think it's dangerous to not expose people. Like, you know, I think that you do have to be careful with kids up to a certain point. But if you're able to explain, like I think a lot of times, especially when it comes to, like, nudity and stuff, it's like when a parent doesn't want to teach their kid about boobs and dicks, it's like, you know, that's...
You want to know the kind of stuff my dad liked to show me that was rated R was, like, war movies, but not even, like World War II. Like, I remember when I was, like, 11, he made me sit down and watch Glory.
Jesus.
Like, old... Like, he was like, if you're going to watch it, like, it's got to mean... Like, it can't just be, like, some, like, simple...
That's not even a good movie.
It's not.
I'm surprised. Did he make you watch The Patriot, like one of the worst fucking movies ever, but somehow makes the Civil War, or not Civil War, the Revolutionary War cool for a minute? You're just like, what's going on? Cannon fire and muskets.
Yeah, it was just stuff, and that's just that's one example, but just like other older like period drama rated R movies and stuff like that he was kind of into, and he showed me, like, that's what I started off seeing first, or things like that. So it was weird. But and then I told you earlier, nowadays, like, I'll go up to him and, like, he's mentioning a movie, and like T2, I was talking to you about that. I was like, I haven't seen it. He was like, how have you not seen that? I'm like, you never showed it to me, and I just never sought it out on my own.
That's so weird. I also think that, like, kids kind of know when they're ready for things.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
When I was a kid, that Martians Attack, is that what it's called? Yeah. That movie came out, and I started watching it when I was pretty young, like 7 or 8 or something like that. I don't remember. And, like, that movie's not a horror movie, but that movie scared the shit out of me, because those aliens were doing some like, one, they looked creepy. They were doing weird things to humans that I didn't understand.
Yeah.
And I was just like, we started watching it, and I was just like, I just left the room. My mom was like, where are you going? I was like, I'm not old enough for this yet. And I just left, because it was like, I don't know what's happening. I'm not enjoying anything that I'm watching.
Yeah.
And, like, but what's weird too is, like, so, you know, I said my parents wouldn't let me watch Power Rangers, but they'd let me watch, like, X-Files. Like, I watched a shit ton of X-Files.
My parents I wasn't allowed to watch Power Rangers or Pokemon or anything like that.
Pokemon?
Well, not Pokemon. Pokemon was a little bit different, but
because that's got Satan in it.
So, no. But she wouldn't let me watch Power Rangers because of the violence and the fighting and stuff like that. And then we would watch CSI all the time. Like, we would sit around the couch. I remember, because every week it came on, it was pizza night. So we would all sit around the couch, watch that. It was Smallville and CSI. And that's what we would watch.
And it's the original CSI that's in Vegas.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's always like a stripper.
I can't sing that.
Yeah, a stripper that gets murdered.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what's stripper? You don't worry about it.
Yeah, I was too little. I didn't care. I was just like, oh, the dude with the glasses is funny. That's cool. Like that's just how it was. Like, I grew up watching cop shows and stuff like that. Like, I used to watch A-Team all the time. Grew up watching that. Walker, Texas Ranger, and things.
Nash Bridges?
That I didn't watch. No.
Oh, Jesus.
So
that was my shit back in the day. Nash Bridges.
I think what we're discovering from this is that you need to make a list of movies.
The list would be so long.
I know. But you don't have to make a list of every, just like movies.
No,
like,
you know what I should do is I should time travel back and unshelter your lives from
I'm
these
just imagining
movies.
you just appearing in that same
naked.
Just...
You're imagining me naked.
God.
Oh, what is that, Tyler? You can't appreciate my naked form.
Are you body shaming him, Tyler?
Not body shaming. I'm just saying the whole.
Do we need to have a talk?
Is absurd.
Do we need to have a talk about the male nudity,
No,
Tyler?
I'm good.
But yeah, you need to make a list of some movies that.
Oh my God, there's
you
so
need
many.
You need to make it first, and then we'll tell you if we haven't seen them.
Well, okay.
Yes.
Here, have you guys seen the original Halloween?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
But that was only recently. That was like.
Oh, I was going to say, because there wasn't any gore in that movie.
That was like, so the other thing too is, because I grew up this way, I did not like horror movies, but my sister, and then we have a family friend who loves it, and they like making me watch them. So over the last couple of years, but they've been slowly making me watch all of these movies. But the problem I have with it is that we have to watch all of them. And that sucks, because I found out really quickly that the running theme with especially horror movies from the 80s is that after the first one, they all kind of suck dick, because the rest of them are just money grabs. And so, like, it sucks.
Well, I don't want to burst your bubble, but modern horror movies aren't any better. They're all just trash now.
I know.
Like, everyone's like, oh, the new Conjuring movie. And it's like, fuck, the first one wasn't good. Why are there 8 of these?
To be fair, I like the first Conjuring movie, but that's just me.
Oh, Jesus. How can you be scared of CGI? I don't get it. I don't get it. Oh man, well, see, the appreciation in horror, even the shitty ones, comes into what we were talking about earlier, is the analysis. With horror movies, everything, well, not everything, but for the most part, horror movies have a, not just a theme, but like a message, because horror is based around fears that we have as humans, and so the different thematic elements that are brought in, like the second Nightmare on Elm Street, that whole movie is notoriously bad. It breaks the first movie's canon of like the rules that are in place for Freddy Krueger. But if you understand the context of the film itself and you go back and watch it, it's a really interesting take, because the entire movie is actually a perspective of a homosexual man that is in the closet and is afraid to come out of the closet. And there's like all this like sexual tension. There's a lot of this like a lot of the stuff that has to do with Freddy is like Freddy coming out of this man. And so it's like the interesting thought about that is that it's like, you know, people are so scared of, you know, their daily situations that we have these horror movies that can express that in a visual and auditory sense for us to like kind of understand them. So that's one of the things that I really enjoyed when because I'm a huge pussy. Like I'm scared of all sorts of stuff. Scary video games, scary movies, but like watching
video games is hard for me because like I hate because the other thing with video games is you have to force yourself to move forward. Like it's not like a movie where you're just watching
Yeah,
I know. Like you're actively like putting yourself in that situation where you're otherwise like, why would I do this? This is stupid.
Yeah,
like I hate that, so I can't play horror games.
Oh, it's great. Once you get past it, it's not so, you know, once you get past the sour milk taste, it's not so bad.
So the other, I don't know. I can't do that. But with horror movies, it was always like they're just making me like they would like drag me to movie theaters and stuff like that. And I found out very quickly that I can do suspense. I don't like gore very much.
What kind of gore? Like this Terminator kind of gore?
No, see, this is fine. This is like just enough. Like, well, I will say that him cutting his arm was like
that's pretty dope.
I did kind of squint a little bit, but like that's not bad. I'm talking about like
torture porn.
Closer to that, yeah. Like the Saw movies and stuff like that.
I knew you were gonna say that. Saw. I knew you were gonna say that, and I had recently gone through and rewatched every Saw movie because I was not a big fan of them, and honestly, like in today's standards, not that gory. Like I've seen way worse shit. If you want to see a movie that'll make you throw up, Hostel. The first Hostel fucked me up so bad. You seen it?
No.
It's terrible. Mm-hmm. Like it's. The first time I watched it was by myself, and I was like eating some cookies and drinking some Dr. Pepper, and then like when shit started happening, like I couldn't, like I had to stop eating my cookies. I didn't feel good anymore. The second time I tried to watch it, I was with some friends and we'd been drinking.
That cowboy movie, right?
Hostel?
Yeah.
No, it's not a cowboy movie. It's.
Are you talking about the one with Christian Bale?
No.
Okay, never mind then. Me and you were thinking about different movies.
Hostel is. It's a group of Americans go and stay. They go to another country in Europe, and they stay in a hostel.
Okay, never mind. See,
and then they get taken to this place where people torture people to death, and it is fucked up. Like I mean, it is beyond fucked up. Like that's not even the twist. That's like the setup. Yeah. Like there is more to it, and it is like graphic, and it was stomach turning, and it was
there's no way I could do that.
It's like it makes Saw, like any of the Saw movies, look like they're just at a McDonald's play place.
Yeah, see, hell no, I won't do that. Like I can't. I would like just put my hand in front of my eyes the entire time.
When you talk about the Cowboy one, are you talking about Bone Tomahawk?
I don't think so. No. Okay. It came out It came out like a year or two ago. By the way, it's a really really good movie. And
what is it?
Hostile. So I think it's just because I'm like I hear a lot of people say hostile instead of hostile, so it's hostile.
Oh.
It's about Christian Bale is this dude
hostile.
who which I guess it makes more sense to say hostile, but I always think hostile in my mind. But it's about he was a general in in the U.S. Army during the time of them like trying to fight on the Apaches and get the Native Americans off the reservations and stuff like that. And this dude has been doing it for like 20 years, and he has seen some shit. And he finally caught this adversary that he'd been fighting for years, and he had him in prison for a few years. But it's this old Native American war chief, and he has like tuberculosis or something like that. So he wrote like a letter to the U.S. governor asking him to be able to go to his homeland or whatever. And as a big PR thing, they're making this general take him, and it's about his story taking this guy over there. And I won't give it too much away because there's some stuff that happens, but it is so good because the action and the emotions are just so raw. Because the movie doesn't have a whole lot of soundtrack or anything like that. You're just in it with these people, and it's just so gritty, and like you just see how shitty the time was back then. And it's also some really good character pieces of like remorse and going through like trying to deal with your trauma and what you've done and it's really, really good. And it's like Christian Bale at his best, but it's also got some really like maybe not to that degree then, but there's some like a couple like really like intense like gross moments. But
oh man, there's this Western one called Bone Tomahawk that I watched recently, and it's what's his name, Kurt Russell, and I believe he did that movie right before Hateful Eight, so it's like he's got very similar facial hair, and he's doing the same accent and everything, and it's like he's the sheriff of a small town, and a bunch of people go missing, and they believe it's a local Native American tribe, but it's like something about it is like very like mystical almost, and so like he and some of the other townsfolk decide to go after him, like, and get their people back. And it's got a fucked up part in it that like people have seen it, you know what I'm talking about, but it was pretty good. It's like there's not a whole lot of Western horror movies, and it's pretty good.
Which is kind of a shame because like when Western, especially Westerns nowadays, because they're trying to get away from like the whole like older like 60s like fun like fantasy element of it, and it's now like nitty gritty real like, and it's so much more interesting. I think that like Western movies coming out nowadays are so much better. So
I mean, I know his movies are over the top, but I really enjoy Quentin Tarantino's takes on the Western times, like with Hateful Eight and Django. I mean, like, maybe some of his tropes are a little overused.
But he also does that. Like he takes old tropes and turn it on its head. Like
that's true.
Like that's all Quentin Tarantino does. He
I also just love
breathes new life into old techniques. So
but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think you should come up with a list, see if we've seen them, and then we'll just go through and.
There's really so many.
There are going to be a lot. Though I think we might have some that might surprise you.
Maybe.
I hope so.
I don't know. Not if Tyler's only been able to watch rated R movies for the
Okay,
last 3 years.
listen. It wasn't that I wasn't allowed to watch them. It's that most of the time I watch movies with my family, and most of the movies that I watch with my family are like action movies or comedy movies.
All Fast and the Furious, right?
No, they didn't like Fast and Furious.
Why?
I love the Fast and Furious
they're
movies.
some of the best movies. Like
they were some of the best shitty movies.
I would say that they're not even shitty anymore. Like at this point, like they are more entertaining than any of the shit that's been coming out of Marvel. Like
I haven't seen any of them.
Oh my god, the fucking have you seen the trailer for the most new movie?
Dude, yes, I have.
We went and watched what movie? We went and watched the Birds of Prey movie, and we saw the trailer for Fast 9, and he literally fucking
popped a boner.
No,
pretty much.
Yeah, dude.
There's a rocket car, and then like he grappling hooks a freaking car to a cliff, and he swings the damn car
on a fucking wood bridge.
Dude, okay, so this since you're a completionist, you have to watch, because now that there are 9 of them, you have to start with the first one too, because.
And now because of Hands back in 9, I have to watch Tokyo Drift too.
Yeah. But and here's the funniest part is that like watching them in order doesn't matter either, because like the time frame is all over the place because they didn't know what they were doing halfway through it. But like if you take the first movie and the newest movie and put them side by side, like okay. Spoiler, but like the first movie was literally about a gang of street racing thieves that were trying to steal
TVs.
Not TVs.
DVD
they were
players.
DVD/VHS dual
players.
Yes. Like, that was their whole thing. And it was like, that was the big score was that. And that's what it was. And now it's like one of the most competent spy movies ever. Like, holy shit, dude. Like, it's insane.
I've been because I told him last a couple months ago that I haven't seen it. He let me borrow them. I just haven't watched them yet.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you doing at night? You should be watching a movie every night.
Gosh,
There are so many of them.
Bro, I did that last semester.
I might do that.
It was so good.
Honestly,
And like literally from like the first few, they're decent in their own right.
Mm-hmm.
But like once it hits 5, it like
all shit
it goes up a level, and then 6, and then 7. Like every single one of them just takes it, and it's just skyrocketing into greatness, and it's
I
insane.
love watching them for the ridiculousness of it.
Here's
Helen Mirren was in it.
I guess that's my homework assignment is to watch Fast and the Furious and report my findings.
Yeah, you got 24 hours of content you need to go explore.
That's so much.
It's okay. You got like what 156 hours to do it in. Like I don't know how long a week is.
I don't know.
72 hours is 3 days. I just kind of doubled that.
At 24 to 1.
I don't know. I know math good. I can't do that.
198?
Maybe. No.
I don't know.
Okay, anyways.
24 times 7.
None of us are good at math because we're all communication majors.
Yeah, and we're not even good at that.
Yeah,
so.
I know. But yeah, I love the Fast and Furious movies. A, because of like just the fucking ridiculousness of it, and B, because there's so much cars and shit. They don't focus on the cars as much nowadays, but I mean like
they do, but it's like it's just a piece. Like it's
exactly.
Yeah, it's like look at this tank car.
Yeah.
Look at this rocket car. Look at this ice car.
Look, I have a Lamborghini.
Yeah, on ice, and it's like, why do you have a Lamborghini on ice? I
Don't
don't know.
they-
I got
don't
to have
they-
a free car.
Don't they shit on him?
Yeah.
For him doing that too, because doesn't he almost die because he can't fucking drive the Lambo in the ice?
Yeah. Well,
It has way too much torque.
and doesn't have any traction on
I
ice.
know.
Because it's ice.
But I mean, like, I don't know. That's probably a subject for another podcast.
Yeah.
Well, after I finish all of them, we'll do a Furious cast.
A Furious cast.
Fuck, man, if I would have known that was the case, like, we would have started with just every episode being about
You know what, man?
movie.
I'm surprised you like the Fast and Furious. Just based
I
on
am
what I've
too,
heard of the
honestly.
movies.
Me?
Like,
Yeah.
I like,
And no, and
but
like,
I like shitty stuff.
You said they weren't shitty.
They're shitty on, like, a beautiful level. It's like... It's so weird. Like, I like to shit on shitty things when they're like intent, like when they are shitty thinking that they're good. Like if it's like this is such a good thing, it's like, no, it's trash.
Like Transformers.
Which one?
Transformers.
Like
The
any
new
of
ones.
them?
The new ones.
I like-
No, the first three.
I like the first one. The other ones can all burn.
I like the first three, and that's it.
Yeah. Well,
That's it.
that's your choice.
I know, but look at the age gap. The
That's
third
true.
one. The third one came out when I was like 12, and so like I
Same.
was all over that shit.
And I was in high school when the first one came out.
Yeah. Look at you dating yourself.
But yeah, like I like, but like things that know that they're shitty but they're still trying to like make the best of it. Like I don't know, there's just something glamorous about that to me. It's just like, yeah, like I have this crazy idea. I know, like, and especially that's when I can forgive shitty CGI, like in the newest Fast and Furious. Like, there's a lot of CGI in that movie. It's very obvious, but I can forgive it because it's like, look at this thing that they're trying to do. It's like, you know for a fact that if they could have done it in real life, they would have.
Yeah.
They would have definitely.
Yeah.
Because in the past, they've wrecked hundreds of cars just doing car chase stuff. Like, it's like, that's a thing that they would do if they could do it safely and probably right the first time, because you can't do it over and over and over. So it's like, what else can they do? CGI. Which I guess you could be like, well, hey, Infinity War, like, you can't just have a Thanos guy walking around, like, that's not realistic. And it's like, you're right. They're comic book movies, so they're automatically cartoons. So why are there real people in them in the first place? Just make them all fucking cartoons. They'd probably still make a shit ton of money. That's the only way that DC's making decent movies, is they're making animated features that are way better than any of their live action stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but never mind. That's a conversation for another time. DC versus Marvel movies and all that good jazz, but
Anyways, Terminator was pretty good.
Terminator.
Terminator was great.
2 thumbs up for
recommend
me.
2 cybernetic thumbs up for me.
Yeah. Same.
Nice. That's 6 thumbs
That's 6
Out of-
thumbs
out of 6
3
thumbs.
people.
What? Yeah. There we go. That's our extent of math. All right. Well,
Alright,
I think that's a good time to wrap it up.
hell yeah.
Unless you guys want, if we wait like record for 12 more minutes, we'll have the podcast just as long as the movie. No,
What?
all right.
What? How did? What? How much? What?
Yeah, it's the movie is an hour and 47 minutes.
Oh
Yep.
gosh.
All right.
We just have dead silence.
Yeah, I just want to go out in dead silence.
I'm good.
Let's reenact the Terminator as he's driving, looking for them.
Okay.
This is done.
Man, silence.
That was like
silence is the worst thing because I just feel pressure in my ears building until something happens.
it was for me. I was like, I don't know how long it was, like 10 seconds, and it
was
felt
not
like an
even 10
eternity.
seconds. It was not 10 seconds.
It was more like
It was two. It was two.
It felt like an eternity. That was dead air.
The only thing that saved that for me was that train.
I was thinking about making car sounds, and I was like, I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Yeah. beep beep.
This is Herbie fully loaded.
Yeah. Didn't you see Lindsay Lohan back there?
Pre-freak out.
All
All right,
right.
yo, this
Anyways.
is the Spectacle Squad. Are we adding podcasts to the end of that, or are we just saying Spectacle Squad?
What?
Like when we're doing these outros, like are we doing Spectacle Squad podcast or the?
It's just whatever. Who cares?
I'm just trying to be consistent with this.
I mean, it's the third episode. We're
That's-
gonna
we
evolve
got,
over
no,
time.
we got to start it early. You got to start these traditions early on. That's how traditions get made.
I guess.
bye everybody. We've been Spectacle Squad.
What did we do last time?
We didn't have a name last time, so it didn't work.
I don't know.
We did what we've been doing for the past 5 minutes and trying to wrap it up and not knowing how to.
Yeah.
but we have.
How
a
do you know
name-
when you're finished?
Hold on. We got to do this right now. Okay, so we have a name. We're the Spectacle Squad.
Spectacle Squad.
Spectacle Squad.
Episode title. Terminator.
And mentioning some other movies and comparing it to it and talking
That's
about
way
Fast
too
and
long.
Furious.
That's way too long.
It's just Terminator discussion. I don't know. We'll come up with that part later. You already know because it's
It's going to be on the
probably-
thumbnail. It's
yeah.
fine. Tyler's going to throw up that really cool graphic. It's going to be great.
that. You know what? This is one of the things I love about podcasts is that you're never surprised by a podcast because there's always a title of the episode and then a description. So when you go into it, it's never like if somebody tries to pull a gag like, "Oh, we're doing something else," and it's like, but the title says,
You mean like my amazing Star Wars bit?
"Yep, yep," because they would automatically know that that's not happening if they read the title or yeah. It's just one of those things where it's like, oh, that's not. You can't.
Maybe that's the joke. It's we know that they know.
Maybe you're the joke,
Probably.
Tyler.
Oh, okay.
If you didn't notice, he was looking at me and then he looked at Tyler. Sorry, this isn't a video format yet.
I know. It still works.
Okay.
All right.
So this has been the Spectacle Squad, and until we talk to you again, see you next. I don't know. I can't do this.
All right.
We'll see you when you see you.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.